Arthur Harrison froze. He was paralyzed by the sight. A little girl, curled up asleep on the cold marble floor of the executive washroom, surrounded by discarded paper towels. He leaned in, ready to wake her, when the girl's eyes snapped open. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She gave him a mischievous smile. "So," she said, her voice surprisingly clear, "are you going to charge me rent for using the bathroom?" The innocent remark knocked the billionaire completely off balance. And in that single instant, a deeply moving story began to unfold. Hello? Before we begin, please leave a comment sharing what you think of this story and tell us what rating you'd give it from 1 to 10. We hope you find comfort and warmth as you listen to these heartwarming stories on our channel. And now let's continue the story together. The sound of Arthur Harrison's leather shoes echoed in the hallway of the main building. It was late. The cold white lights illuminated the tiled floor, reflecting his tall figure. As the CEO of the renowned Harrison Holdings in New York City, he didn't usually make inspections at this hour, but the security report mentioned strange noises on the 60th floor, so he decided to check it personally. Arthur was a 45-year-old man with a straight posture, a severe face, and eyes as cold as steel. Ever since his wife had died from a long illness, only work filled the void. People said Arthur was successful, a billionaire. But who truly understood the loneliness inside him? He stopped in front of the executive women's restroom. The door was slightly ajar. A faint light filtered out, along with muffled sounds. Arthur frowned and pushed the door. The scene made him immobile. A girl, about 8 years old, was huddled on the freezing tile floor, surrounded by scattered pieces of toilet paper. Her messy brown hair covered half her face. Her wrinkled clothes and small hands were pressed against her chest, as if seeking warmth. Arthur felt a sharp pain in his heart. He leaned down and gently shook the girl's shoulder. What are you doing here?" The girl opened her eyes. But instead of screaming or panicking, she blinked a couple of times and showed a slight, ironic smile. Her voice was clear, though playful. "Are you going to charge me rent for using this bathroom or not?" Arthur was stunned. He didn't know whether to be angry or compassionate. In that gaze, he saw something familiar, a forced smile hiding sadness. A memory of his late wife flashed in his mind, the way she smiled so he wouldn't worry while she fought her illness. His heart tightened. "What's your name?" Arthur asked, his voice low and firm. "My name is Lily." The girl sat up, brushing the toilet paper off her clothes with a casual air, as if it were all a game. Before Arthur could ask more, a female voice came from the door. "Arthur, what's going on?" Eleanor Vance entered. She was a woman in her 40s, the COO of the company, who had worked with Arthur for years. Eleanor was known for her sharpness and intelligence, always seen as his right hand. Seeing Lily, she covered her mouth in feigned surprise. "My God, a strange child in the company. Arthur, if this gets out, your reputation could be seriously affected." Arthur frowned but didn't respond. Eleanor quickly stepped into the hallway and secretly made a phone call. He didn't notice. He kept looking at Lily, thoughtful. Less than 10 minutes later, hurried footsteps echoed down the corridor. A couple appeared. The man was Mark Dawson, about 35, Lily's uncle. He was tall and thin with a handsome face, but his eyes were sharp as knives, loaded with greed. Beside him was Brenda Duarte, his wife, a woman with heavy makeup, bright red lips, and an expression of contempt. "So here you are, Lily," Mark barked, advancing with a firm step. He roughly grabbed the girl's arm and yanked her hard. "You've embarrassed this family long enough." Brenda lifted her chin, her voice dripping with venom. "Did you want the whole company to see how dirty you are?" Lily stood still, her eyes shining. Her body trembled slightly, but instead of crying, she pressed her lips together and suddenly smiled, tilting her head. "This bathroom is cold," she said, her eyes glinting. "But I think it's warmer than your house." The air grew tense. Mark's face turned red. Brenda's mouth fell open in shock. The nearby security guards looked at each other, unsure whether to intervene. Arthur watched, a strange feeling stirring inside him. Such a fragile girl, yet she chose to face humiliation with sharp wit. He had never seen anything like it. Enough. Arthur's voice cut the tension. He stepped forward, placing himself between Lily and her abusers. "She will stay here tonight. I want answers. Mark's eyes widened. "You have no right. I have every right in this building." Arthur stared him down, his tone low and firm. Brenda tried to reply, but meeting Arthur's icy gaze, she swallowed her words and pulled her husband back. That night, Arthur took Lily to the company cafeteria. It was quiet, with only a few lights casting shadows. He sat across from her, watching how she ate, ravenously but with manners, stopping occasionally to wipe her mouth. Arthur said nothing, but his mind was racing. He noticed Lily's habit, eating fast and always leaving a little on the plate, like someone used to being hungry. Just then, the girl looked up. Her voice was casual but heavy. "My mom, Maria Evans, worked here. I miss her so much today." Arthur froze. Maria Evans, a name he had never forgotten. A talented architect, principled enough to argue with him directly in board meetings. Maria wasn't like the others. She wasn't afraid to point out design flaws, to defend safety standards, even if it meant annoying her superiors. But she had also been a sweet woman, her eyes always bright when she talked about her family. Arthur clearly remembered hearing her once speak proudly of her 8-year-old daughter who could already read. He remembered the way she laughed when mentioning her husband, a simple engineer who loved his family deeply. Looking at Lily now, Arthur saw those same bright eyes, that same fragile smile. The reflection of Maria herself. "Maria, is this your daughter?" The next morning, the first rays of sun filtered through the blinds, illuminating the VIP lounge on the 70th floor. Lily woke up, her eyes still squinting. This was nothing like the rooms she was used to. The bed was wide, the sheets smelled fresh, the pillows were as soft as clouds. She sat up slowly. Her eyes scanned every corner. By the window was a polished wooden desk. On it rested a shiny wooden case. Inside, a long, heavy, gleaming signature pen. Lily's curiosity ignited. She tiptoed over and lifted it carefully. She had to use both hands, as if holding an iron bar. "My gosh, this must weigh more than a baseball bat," Lily whispered, her lips curling into a smile. "Uncle Arthur must have to work out every day just to sign those giant papers." She let out a small laugh, a clear sound that echoed in the quiet room. The door burst open. Arthur Harrison entered, wearing a dark blue shirt with a black tie, his hair neatly combed back. Normally severe, his presence seemed even colder in the morning light. Arthur frowned upon seeing Lily with the pen. But hearing her playful words, the corner of his mouth twitched, as if a smile were about to escape. "That's not a toy," Arthur said, his voice deep, firm, but not harsh. "It's a contract pen." Lily immediately set it down, holding up both hands in a gesture of mock surrender. Her eyes sparkled as she replied innocently, "I just wanted to see if it could hit a ball. If it can't sign a contract, at least it could win a baseball game." Arthur let out a slight snort and sat down across from her. He observed her in silence for a long moment before speaking. "Why did you sleep in the bathroom last night?" Lily blinked, her small hands clutching her lap. She lowered her head and answered in a soft, clear voice, "Because it's safer there. The bathroom has a lock. At home there's no lock to protect me from Uncle Mark's yelling." Arthur froze. The words pierced him like a knife. He had never imagined a child would choose a bathroom as a refuge simply because it had a lock. For an instant his chest felt unbearably heavy. He found no words. A knock sounded at the door. Eleanor Vance entered. She was the COO, always sharp, skilled, and meticulous. For Arthur, she had been his right hand for years. "Arthur, I heard the child is still here," Eleanor said, her voice both cordial and cautious. "You must be careful. A strange child in the building. If the press finds out, they'll have a field day. The company's reputation can't be put at risk." Arthur looked at her. "I know, I'll take care of it. This is a private matter." Eleanor inclined her head with a slight smile. "I just want to remind you not to let emotions guide you. The company must always be the priority." She gave Lily a quick, inscrutable look and left. Lily sat still, her eyes blinking anxiously. She quickly returned the pen to its case, avoiding Arthur's gaze. Not even half an hour had passed when the office door opened again. Mark Dawson entered with his wife Brenda. Mark wore a gray suit, his attractive face hardened by a calculating look. "Arthur," Mark began, his voice low, trying to sound amiable. Thanks for looking after Lily last night. She just got upset and ran off. We were so worried we couldn't sleep." Brenda immediately chimed in, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. "My brother-in-law just passed away. The whole family is still grieving. Lily is little, she doesn't understand. She just got lost, that's all." Arthur didn't respond immediately. He looked at Lily. The girl was shrunk in silence, not lifting her head. Her small hands trembled as they gripped the hem of her blouse. "Lily," Arthur said slowly, "do you want to go home with your aunt and uncle?" The room fell silent. Lily bit her lip, her eyes fixed downward, and slowly shook her head. Not a single word came out. Brenda frowned. "She's just scared, that's all. Children throw tantrums." Arthur rose from his chair, walked to his desk, and turned to face them. His voice was deep and resolute. "The girl will stay here for a few more days. I need to verify everything. Then I will decide." Mark was floored. "You have no right to keep my niece." Arthur looked him straight in the eyes. "I have every right to protect a child, at least until I'm sure she's safe." The air was tense. Brenda gripped her purse tightly, pulling Mark toward the door. But in their eyes, Arthur could clearly see the rage they were trying to suppress. Only after they left did Lily let out a sigh. That night, Arthur remained alone in his office. The building was silent. He dug into the old file system, hoping to find more about Maria Evans, the woman Lily had mentioned. Among hundreds of documents, an unsent email appeared in the drafts folder. The sender, Maria, Arthur opened it. It was only a few lines, but they were enough to make his blood run cold. "If this truth comes out, I fear they will try to silence me." Arthur sat motionless. He read it again and again, a chill running down his spine. Those words weren't written casually. Maria knew something, and her death. Perhaps it hadn't been so simple. Leaning back in his chair, Arthur clenched his fists. Outside, the lights of New York City filtered through the window, but in his eyes, there was only a heavy, suffocating darkness. In his mind, one question thundered like a hammer. "Maria, what exactly did you discover?" Arthur didn't go home. He slept in his office, something he rarely did. When he opened his eyes, it was already 8 a.m. He stood up, adjusted his tie, and went down to the cafeteria, where he was sure he'd find Lily. There she was, sitting alone at a long table. In front of her was a tray with cereal, milk, and toast. Arthur stopped, observing. Lily ate quickly, spoonful after spoonful, yet strangely she still left half a slice of toast and a bit of milk. She looked around, making sure no one was watching, then pushed the leftovers aside as if saving them. Arthur approached. "Why didn't you finish it?" Lily hesitated, then shrugged, her voice a whisper. "At my uncle's house. If I ate everything, they yelled at me for being greedy. I'm just used to leaving a little." Arthur's hand tensed on the table. Such a small habit, yet it said so much. He looked at the leftover toast, a heavy stone settling in his chest. "You don't have to do that here," he said slowly. "Here, the food is meant to be eaten. No one will scold you." Lily was silent, then smiled mischievously. "Okay. So if I eat it all, don't get mad if the company goes bankrupt because I eat too much." Arthur let out a quiet breath, almost a laugh. That playful comment eased the heaviness in the air. In the days that followed, Arthur watched Lily closely. He noticed she had a habit of trying to make others laugh, even when she was clearly sad. She would roll on the sofa, pretending to be a Voss, or walk with her hands behind her back like a CEO. "I'm practicing to be the boss," she'd wink. "Maybe one day I'll sign the contracts for you." But Arthur also noticed something else. Whenever Lily thought no one was watching, her eyes would go blank. Silent and sad. Once, Arthur asked her directly. Why do you smile all the time?" Lily paused, resting her chin on her hands. Her voice was innocent but firm. "Because if I don't smile, people will think I'm weak. And at my uncle's house, if you're weak, you can't survive." Arthur fell silent. Those words dragged him back to his past, to the days when his wife lay sick in bed. She kept smiling every time he entered, kept saying, "I'm fine," even when her hands were ice cold. He knew that smile was the last wall she used to hide her pain. Just like Lily's smile now, Arthur's gaze softened. He slowly placed his hand on the table, not touching her, and said quietly, "You don't have to be strong all the time." Lily just looked at him. She didn't reply. Later that afternoon, when Arthur returned to his office, Eleanor was waiting. "Are you busy?" she asked, holding a folder. "What is it?" Arthur sat down, loosening his tie. Eleanor placed the folder on the desk. "I heard the girl is still here. Arthur, you're a public figure. An emotional decision could cost you dearly. A single child could make you lose more than you imagine." Arthur opened the folder, glanced at it, and set it aside. "I know what I'm doing." Eleanor tilted her head, her eyes still reflecting concern. "I'm not against you helping, but this company isn't just yours. The press needs only the slightest slip-up to create headlines. I don't want to see you become a laughingstock." Arthur leaned back, his eyes turning to the window. "If I cared about being laughed at, I wouldn't be in this position." Eleanor smiled faintly and nodded. "I hope you're right. Just remember, once credibility is lost, it's hard to get back." She left, leaving Arthur alone in the room. That night, Arthur found the newspaper on his desk. He picked it up and glanced at the headline. In huge letters on the front page, "Arthur Harrison illegally detaining a child." Below it was a photo of him and Lily sitting in the cafeteria, clearly taken by a spy from afar. Lily was laughing, while he remained silent, staring at her. Arthur crushed the newspaper and quickly read the article. It portrayed him as someone exploiting a child for publicity, claiming he was keeping a stranger inside the company without notifying the authorities. The distorted words stabbed directly at his reputation. His blood boiled. Arthur gripped the paper so tightly the pages crumpled. He threw it violently onto the desk. "Who?" His voice resonated in the office, low and steely. "Leaked this?" In that instant, Arthur knew the battle had officially begun. The press was attacking him. Public opinion was exploding, and he was facing the risk of losing his credibility, just when he had finally begun to forge a bond with Lily. The noise filled the grand boardroom. Every tense, awkward gaze was fixed on the man at the head of the table. On the table, the newspaper's headline screamed, "Arthur Harrison illegally detaining a child." A portly, middle-aged shareholder slammed his hand on the table. "You see it yourself, Harrison. The market has already reacted. Our stock price dropped 8% the moment the market opened this morning. One article was enough to shake investor confidence. A gray-haired woman, known for her prudence, cleared her throat. We are a construction corporation with projects nationwide. Our reputation is our greatest asset. If the public believes our CEO is involved in a scandal, do you think anyone will dare sign the next contract with us?" Arthur remained still, his back straight, fingers intertwined. He listened to every complaint without his expression changing. Eleanor, sitting to his left, seemed calm. Her voice was soft but clear. "Arthur, I know you have your reasons, but you need to separate the personal from the professional. An impulsive act could cost the entire company. Sometimes the right thing isn't always the most profitable." The room fell silent, awaiting his response. Slowly, Arthur lifted his head, looking directly at the shareholders. His voice was low and firm. "None of you have had to witness a child choosing a bathroom as the safest place to sleep. If you had, you would understand why I couldn't just turn my back." No one spoke. The meeting ended quickly. Eleanor was the last to leave. "I hope," she murmured, "you truly know what you're doing." That evening, Arthur returned to his office. He sank into his chair, his gaze lost. A knock sounded. Lily peeked in, holding a small box of cookies from the cafeteria. "I thought you should eat something," she said, her voice innocent. "You look too stressed." Arthur looked at the cookies, then at Lily. "Are you scared too?" he asked suddenly. Arthur didn't respond immediately. He turned his chair toward the window. After a moment, he answered slowly, his tone deep and serene. "Yes, I am scared. But being scared doesn't mean you give up." Lily observed him, her innocent face slowly lighting up with a small smile. She nodded slightly, sitting in the chair opposite him, a new confidence in her eyes. The news soon reached Arthur. Mark and Brenda had filed a petition in court, accusing him of kidnapping and demanding custody of Lily. The newspapers exploded. He called an old acquaintance. That afternoon, David Chen, a lawyer Arthur had worked with for years, entered the office. David was known for being direct, sharp and relentless in the courtroom. "David," Arthur said, "I need you on my side." David opened his briefcase. "Mark and Brenda beat you to it. They have legal documents and are blood relatives. You have no legal connection. On paper, they have the advantage." "David," Arthur's eyes were tense. "You have to understand," David continued. "If you enter this lawsuit, they will drag you through the mud. The press, the public, even people in your own company. They don't just want the girl. They want to destroy you." Arthur stood and walked to the window. The New York sunset stained the sky red. He turned, his eyes burning with determination. "Then I'll walk through the mud." David Chen got to work immediately. The small meeting room became a war room of papers. "Arthur," David said quietly, "I recognize a forgery when I see one." He pointed to the custody papers Mark had filed. "This seal is crooked, and the notarization date? It falls on a federal holiday." The office was closed. This isn't a coincidence. Arthur's suspicion was confirmed, feeding his determination. That afternoon, Arthur returned to his office after a project meeting. He froze. Lily was standing on a chair, carefully wiping his desk with a cloth, an exaggerated look of precision on her face. A glass of water sat dangerously close to the edge. Unaware, Lily's hand brushed it, and the glass fell, spilling water everywhere. Arthur frowned. "Lily, what are you doing?" Lily spun around, a flash of panic on her face, but she quickly forced a shy smile. I just wanted to clean your desk, Uncle. I cleaned it really well." "Even better than the bathroom yesterday." The unexpected comment caught Arthur completely off guard. For the first time in years, a real laugh escaped him. The sound was deep, dry, but genuine, leaving Lily wide-eyed with surprise. "You laughed," she cheered. Arthur shook his head, grabbing a cloth to dry the water. "Next time, just be more careful." The weight of the last few days lightened, just a little. Later, Eleanor appeared. "I heard David discovered something," she began, her tone even. "Yes," Arthur said. "The guardianship document shows signs of forgery." Eleanor tilted her head. "Arthur, I don't deny Mark and Brenda are shady, but think realistically. Litigating costs money. It drags the public into this. If you negotiate, you can protect your image, limit the damage, and keep the company out of trouble." Arthur looked at her, his voice calm but icy. "Are you asking me to abandon a child in exchange for convenience?" Eleanor smiled, a smile as thin as a razor's edge. "I'm just advising you to consider the price. Every decision has consequences." She left. Arthur sat, his eyes darkening. He no longer trusted her concerns. That night, Lily ran into his office holding an old comic book. She flopped onto the sofa and suddenly asked, "Uncle Arthur, do you ever feel lonely?" The question touched something he had buried for years. "Yes," he replied, his voice deep. "But work keeps me busy. Too busy to think about loneliness." Lily smiled faintly. "I'm the opposite. I have too much time to think about it, but nothing to do to forget it." Just as the silence deepened, there was a knock. A middle-aged man entered. He was tall, thin, with graying hair. "My name is Mike Sullivan," he said. "I used to be a construction supervisor here. I worked with Maria." Arthur looked up, wary. Mike approached, pulling an old leather-bound notebook from his bag. The edges were worn. "She trusted me to keep this." "I think it's time you had it." Arthur took it. His chest tightened as he recognized the familiar handwriting. Numbers, detailed notes on materials, projects. But many pages had been torn out, leaving jagged scars. "Arthur." Mike lowered his voice. "She didn't die in an accident. I'm convinced of it. And Eleanor Vance. She was the last person to argue with Maria. It was the afternoon before it happened." Arthur froze. Eleanor. The suspicion that had been growing now crystallized. "What's that notebook?" Lily's voice startled him. She had peeked in. "Did my mom write it?" Arthur quickly moved the notebook aside. "It's just some work notes." He tried to sound calm. Lily climbed onto the chair opposite him, watching him intently. "What did my mom write?" Arthur's throat tightened. He saw Maria in her, the same determination, the same hunger for truth. Finally, he extended his hand and gently stroked her head. "Someday I'll tell you. For now, all you need to know is that your mom was very brave." Then I'll be brave too, Lily nodded firmly, just like her. Meanwhile, across town, Eleanor was in her private office, phone in hand. Mark, her voice was low and sharp, we don't have much time. Arthur has the notebook. Not all of it, but enough. If he keeps digging, everything will collapse. Increase the pressure. Keep him busy fighting public opinion so he doesn't have time to chase the truth. Do it now. 2 days later, Arthur entered the main lobby of Harrison Holdings. The blinding flashes of cameras assaulted him. Dozens of reporters swarmed. In the midst of the crowd, Mark and Brenda appeared. "We are here," Brenda shouted, her voice breaking just enough for the cameras. "To take our niece back home. Mr. Harrison has held her illegally, separating her from her real family. We will get Lily back and the inheritance her parents left." The reporters surged. Mark blocked Arthur's path. "You can't keep the girl like a kidnapper, Harrison. Give her to us now or face the tribunal. Believe me, this time you have no way out." Brenda sneered at Lily, who was hiding behind Arthur. "Look at her, trembling, clinging to your coat like a stray cat. Do you really think as a CEO you can raise a stubborn child? That's not a treasure, Arthur. It's a burden that will sink you." The atmosphere collapsed. The press captured every moment. Lily stepped out from behind Arthur. Her face was pale, but her eyes were firm. She looked directly at Brenda, her clear voice resonating with unwavering strength. "I would rather sleep in the bathroom for the rest of my life than go back with you." The words sliced through the crowded lobby. The entire hall fell silent. Reporters lifted their cameras higher. Mark's jaw tightened. A single applause broke out. Then another. Soon, the entire group of employees joined in, a thunderous ovation filling the lobby. Just as the noise peaked, Eleanor exited the elevator, her smile serene. "Please, everyone, calm down. This is a family matter. It's best to let the law decide. Don't turn the company into a battlefield." Mark seized on her words. "We agree completely. The law will decide, and I assure you, the truth will be on our side." Arthur bent down, wrapping Lily in his arms. "We will fight," he whispered, "until the end." Lily just nodded firmly. The next day, David Chen entered with an official summons. "The court has set a date. They're fast-tracking it to corner you." The trial began. The courtroom was packed. Judge Carolina Mendez, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and severe eyes, presided. Mark testified first. "I am Lily's legal guardian. I am here to enforce that right, opposing the illegal custody by Mr. Arthur Harrison." Brenda followed, her voice trembling. "Since my brother-in-law died, we've been raising Lily. But Mr. Harrison used his power to turn her against us. We just want her to return to her true home, where there is real blood love." Then Eleanor was called. She was calm, her voice smooth. "I have worked with Mr. Harrison for years. He is a talented man, but he often acts emotionally. By keeping Lily in the company without notifying authorities, I believe he only wanted to help. But it has caused problems for the company, the shareholders, and possibly the girl." Her words seemed objective, but each one subtly pushed Arthur into a corner. It was David Chen's turn. "Your Honor, the documents they presented show clear signs of forgery. The seal is misaligned, and the signature date is a federal holiday." He held up Maria's battered notebook. "This is the notebook of the girl's mother, Maria Evans. In it, she detailed numerous violations on several construction projects. We believe her death was not an accident." The room erupted in murmurs, but the judge struck her gavel. "Order. Mr. Chen, unverified notes cannot be considered admissible evidence in this custody case. This hearing is strictly limited to custody rights, not the cause of the parent's death." David sat down, defeated. Things looked bleak. In the hallway during a recess, Lily sat hugging her knees. "Uncle," she whispered, "if I have to go back, please don't hate me." Arthur's throat closed. He knelt, wrapping her in his arms. "I will never hate you. Do you hear me? Never. None of this is your fault." When they returned, the judge was ready. Based on the evidence presented, the balance of justice leans toward the plaintiffs. Mark and Brenda smiled in triumph. Arthur stared at the gavel, his heart pounding. "Maria, I won't let them win. I swear it." The gavel was about to fall. "Stop!" The heavy wooden doors burst open. Mike Sullivan rushed in, shirt wrinkled, face covered in sweat. "Your Honor, forgive me. My name is Mike Sullivan. I bring crucial evidence." A murmur erupted. "You are late, Mr. Sullivan. The judge frowned. "But if you have evidence, present it now." Mike walked quickly to the front, holding up a small digital recorder. "Before she died, Maria Evans entrusted me with this. It contains recordings of her meeting with Eleanor Vance. I kept it hidden because I feared retaliation. But today, seeing Maria's daughter at risk, I can no longer remain silent." Arthur shot up from his seat. David Chen immediately took the recorder and connected it to the court's projection system. An audio file began to play. Maria's voice rang out, clear and precise. "If you keep cutting corners on the materials, thousands of lives will be in danger. The columns won't hold the load. This isn't about money anymore, it's about lives." The air froze. A second voice, deep and cold. Unmistakably Eleanor's. "Nobody will know if you stay quiet. But if you open your mouth, an accident will find you." The room exploded. Reporters stood on chairs. Arthur was motionless, his hands clenched so tightly his veins bulged. Eleanor's face drained of color. This is fabricated. It's edited." Mike Sullivan stepped forward. "You threatened Maria right in front of me. I witnessed it all. It was Maria herself who gave me this recorder." Mark jumped up. "This is a conspiracy." "We had nothing to do with it." David Chen seized the moment, his voice sharp. "Your Honor, this recording not only exposes irregularities, but proves Eleanor threatened Maria's life. And I want to point out, Mark and Brenda acted in complicity. We have financial records showing they withdrew her brother's life insurance fund just 1 week after his death." The room descended into chaos. Elena tried to defend herself, but Mike's voice thundered over hers. "You threatened her. She died shortly after. And today, her daughter was almost handed over to greedy hands. You call that protection?" After an hour of deliberation, Judge Mendez returned, her voice steel. "The court finds Mark and Brenda Dawson are stripped of any guardianship of Lily Evans and will be prosecuted for child abuse and fraudulent appropriation of inheritance. Eleanor Vance is charged with fraud, concealment of irregularities, and conspiracy in the death of the architect Maria Evans. Mr. Arthur Harrison is granted full legal custody of Lily Evans." The words rang out like a bell of liberation. Arthur sank into his chair, breathing deeply. His arms closed tightly around Lily. She broke into sobs, then suddenly threw her arms around Arthur's neck, crying out a single word. "Dad!" That word echoed in his heart like a miracle. Arthur trembled, his eyes blurring with tears. "My daughter," he whispered, his voice cracking. "My daughter." In that moment, the man once considered cold and unfeeling shivered as he held the child in his arms as if she were the whole world. 15 years passed. Amelia, now 23, stood on the stage of a prestigious school of architecture at her graduation ceremony. In the front row, Arthur, now in his 60s, stood slowly, his hand trembling as he applauded, his eyes wet. "Dad," she said, running to him, "I did it." Arthur smiled, his voice rough with age. "No, you did it. I just walked beside you." They returned to the company. The Maria Evans Scholarship Fund had flourished. Maria's photo hung in the main hall. Lily, now an architect herself, placed her hand on the glass. "Mom," she whispered, "I've followed your path. And I'm never alone, because I always have Dad by my side." Their life was quieter now. One evening, walking past the old building, Lily asked, "Dad, do you ever think, if you hadn't gone into that bathroom that day, what would have happened to me?" Arthur was silent, then replied softly, "Some things in life aren't just coincidences. I think that day, it was destiny. Destiny for me to find you." Lily smiled, her eyes filling with tears. The story closed on a serene afternoon. Arthur and Lily sat together on a park bench, hand in hand, watching the birds fly toward the sunset. Life had tested them with pain, but it had rewarded them with family. They didn't need many words. Justice had been served, and the most valuable thing had been found, the bond between a father and his daughter. What do you think of this story? If you were in Arthur's place, would you have the courage to stand up and protect a child against such difficulties? Do you believe that justice, though sometimes delayed, never abandons those who live with integrity? Leave us your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again in the next story, where we continue to believe that kindness always triumphs.